Let's have some fun right now, and let's do a little history lesson on this concept of network segmentation. In fact, if I worked at CompTIA and I was in charge of this title, I would have called this topic something like network microsegmentation, because today that's really what we're talking about. It is no longer just segmenting networks, it is micro-segmenting networks, and I'll explain that evolution to you. And also, as a bonus in this video, we'll talk about some of the common network security protocols that we're dealing with in our environments today. So let's not waste any time. Let's get to our whiteboard here. What we want to discuss is how network segmentation became a big thing. When networking really first started out, we had the hub type of a device, and that was taking in a signal, and it was sending that signal in a total non-discriminatory way out every single port that it possessed. This, of course, was a nightmare, and it created collisions in the traffic, and also just what a terrible use of bandwidth, because it's this device here, device 1, wanting to communicate with device 2, and the information is transmitted everywhere. Well, the bridge came along. Take me to the bridge, I think, is something that maybe Rick James once sang. But anyways, the bridge came along, and what the bridge would do is it would at least make 2 segments. So you could constrain the information into these 2 segments. And then what came along was a switch, of course, and the switch, also known as a transparent bridge, what it's doing is it is micro-segmenting the network. Yes, it has a ton of ports on it, and each station that connects, its location is learned by the switch. And so now when this device wants to talk to this device, the switch keeps that traffic constrained to those 2 devices. Now, what's interesting about microsegmentation is that while this is the brief history of it, these hubs which became bridges, which became switches, this evolution, this exact type of thing happens inside of our virtual world with virtual machines. It's so amazing. They have a virtual network interface card that's going to connect into a virtual switch. That virtual switch might connect into another virtual switch. And then it might connect into a physical switch. So I'll say P switch. You get the idea, right? So it is remarkable how these same concepts are going to be translated and utilized in the virtualized world as well, that we tend to work with so much in a cloud-based environment. Now, as I said, kind of a bonus in this video, let's talk about some of the network security protocols that you need to become very familiar with. And I would really encourage you, if you're going to be doing cloud in any kind of a capacity, if you're doing, my goodness, cloud in the capacity of design or implementation, it doesn't matter. You need to be well versed in these. So think about what's going to be happening. We have some kind of, maybe it's a branch office. And this branch office has a whole bunch of data and things that are going to be needing to be transferred into maybe the public cloud. So what are going to be our options for doing this securely? Because after all, yikes, that is the internet, and that is that scary place that is just chock full of individuals that would be interested in obtaining this information. And this very reason is why some very old school C-suite executives within organizations say, no way, we're not going to the cloud. We're in a panic about doing such a thing. So guess what? We have an environment where, thanks to the internet now and its adherence to HTTPS. This is used to be secure socket layer, but it's really evolved now into what's called transport layer security. Since it still borrows so heavily from the SSL, it's often called SSL/TLS. But this is the technology that's behind the HTTPS secured connection. This is TCP port 443. Notice I have that memorized because of how commonly we use this to interact between like a branch office and the public cloud. Now, what if this connection needed to be up all the time and we wanted even more security enhancements? Well, that's when you can go ahead and do like a VPN, a hardware-based VPN solution, and then you can do a virtual software-based VPN device up at your public cloud. And what you're going to be doing, of course, is an IPsec tunnel over those that connection, right? So those hardware VPN devices and the software VPN devices are establishing an IPsec tunnel, and that can remain up all the time. And that is a really, really great way when you know your branch office is going to need to communicate with your public cloud like at all times. So keep a nice VPN connection with IPsec up all the time. Now, another protocol you want to be familiar with is Secure Shell, because remember, Secure Shell is how we often will go in from the branch office and get to a virtual machine that is running inside of the cloud. Maybe it is a Linux machine, and of course it's powered by the command line interface, so we use Secure Shell to make a remote connection in and access the CLI of that device. If you're in a Microsoft environment, you're probably using Remote Desktop Protocol to do the same thing, to go in and get to the graphical user interface, in that case, of the Windows server that might be running for you up in the cloud. Well, it's a busy whiteboard, isn't it? Because as we saw, there's quite a few protocols we need to know in a cloud-based environment, helping to keep all of this secure. We remember, security is a reason that some are afraid to go to the cloud, but if we do it properly and we learn these protocols, we can make it a more secure proposition than even traditional environments. Thanks so much for watching.